12 races, 6 different race winners, epic battles and a nail-biting conclusion. It must be the Formula Regional Middle East Championship here at the Dubai Autodrome, ready for the 5th and final race weekend of our fantastic season. You know, it's been a very busy race weekend already, and obviously everybody coming into this knows that these tyres are not going to be very easy to hold on to. You can see for yourself the track temperature has already climbed to 22 degrees Celsius. It's going to get even more than that over the course of the day. But what's really significant here is the humidity. That's what's really causing an issue for the teams in terms of setup. These tyres are not going to go very long into the qualifying session. You can see for yourself that cars are already starting to go out. While they're starting to bed in for qualifying one, let's talk you through the runners and riders for this final round of the championship. There's an end-of-term atmosphere at Dubai Autodrome as the Formula Regional Middle East Championship draws to a close. And even without the Tarpanen versus Barnard duel, there are several battles yet to be concluded amongst the starting lineup. Tuukka Tarpanen is just 1 point away from clinching the drivers' and teams' titles for Race GP, whilst Zachary David's 2 podiums at Abu Dhabi helped the team accelerate away in the standings. Jesse Carrasquedo is still working hard to catch up, and Kanato Lee adapted well as a new boy last weekend. Mumbai Falcons have shot up to second in the standings at Yas Marina, thanks to the win for Rafael Kamara and the podium finishes for Ugo Ugochukwu and James Wharton. The team may have lost the chance to defend the team's title in 2024, but both Kamara and Wharton are competing for third in the drivers' race. The PHM AIX squad are still hopeful for a win or two before the season's end, and Taylor Barnard is in full send mode for as long as the title race is still alive. Brando Badua and Tazanapol Intrafivazak are still quick and could grab some more silverware, whilst Luruki is getting closer to the podium every weekend. Marty Boyer and Pinnacle still have statements to make as the Spaniard bids to catch Kamara for third, whilst Giovanni Mascio and Alexander Abkasava are now deserved point scorers following great battles last week. And now that Finley Green is almost fully recovered from appendicitis, all 4 drivers want to bow out strong. MP stood for missed potential last week, as Bruno Del Pino was robbed of a maiden win with suspension failure whilst leading, and Nickel Bora's tyres faded too rapidly for a fight for victory. Both men, along with Emerson Fittipaldi Jr. and Isaac Barashi, are hoping that they can finally drop the bad luck and win races the way they deserve to. After an epic couple of races at the start of the year, reality set in for Santalog, who are still new at the Formula Regional game. But Teofil Naal still has the speed to turn in a good showing, and both Enzo Peugeot and Jose Garfias were in positive form last weekend, and will be keen to leave the UAE with some silverware to carry home. Evans GP were the feel-good team of the paddock at round 4, as Costa Taparis stormed to a fabulous podium in race 1. Now that the team have shaken off their early woes, it's the hope that both John Bennett and Edgar Pierre can join the Australian in the points-paying positions, as all 3 men are able to mix it with the best of them. The XL Motorsport team are still having a terrific run as rookies in Formula Regional, and Noah Lyle spent much of the last 2 weekends dueling with the championship contenders. The potential is there, and if Yaroslav Vasalaho is able to match him for pace in the early part of the weekend, the team should end the year with more points. Finally, the team from R&B Racing celebrated Chinese New Year at Yas Marina with more speed and determination than ever before. But the challenge will be extreme if Gao Yujia and Wang Shongwei are hoping to score points before the season concludes. Yujia is the best placed, and his ever-improving racecraft could be enough to seal the deal.
For the first race of the weekend, it's definitely going to be an interesting one as the contenders are starting to line themselves up around the circuit. Only 5 drivers went out initially when the green light went out at the end of the pit lane. Everybody else just choosing to wait a lap in order to send themselves out on the circuit. So don't worry, folks, you haven't missed anything yet in terms of Formula Regional Middle East qualifying. Just the 5 drivers that went out initially: Jose Garfias, Edgar Pierre, John Bennett, Wang Shongwei and Gao Yujia. Bruno Del Pino sets an early initial banker as well for the MP Motorsport team. I actually had a great opportunity to talk with him about what happened last week, and do you know what, considering he was so close to getting his first victory, and he was very emotional about it at the time, he's quite reflective about it now, basically saying, well, no, I've proved to myself that I was fast enough to win, so I'm quite happy with the step up to Formula Regional, having been in the Euro Cup 3 Championship last year. It's a very similar car as far as he's concerned, so he's obviously learnt very well from his Euro Cup 3 campaign last year. And there's a handful of drivers in this grid that are actually looking to then take this campaign and move on to Euro Cup 3. A few of them, of course, many of them will be in Freca for the 2024 main body of the season, which of course is the Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine. But here this week, the conclusion of a very different championship. The car is effectively the same, but obviously the engines developed by Autotechnica, Alfa Romeo units, but very similar in terms of the style of the battle. So the competitors now just gearing themselves up, and it's very difficult indeed now to see how the competitors are going to be working hard to dial in. Obviously, having spoken to a lot of the drivers this weekend, I asked them, you know, the pace looks really difficult to sustain over one flying lap. And they said, yeah, basically we're only going to get one flying lap in qualifying, two if we're very, very lucky indeed. But as Ken Heathcote intimated in the F4 UAE qualifying a short while ago, that's not really going to be the key factor this weekend. What's actually going to be the most relevant decision-making process of who wins races is who's going to be the best driver at looking after their tyres for half an hour, because that's actually going to be more critical even than starting grid position. With the raised temperatures, with the raised humidity, the tyre degradation is going to be catastrophic compared to even 2 weeks ago here. So it's all going to come down to who's going to be the smartest at looking after their tyres. And that could provide a decent opportunity for a few competitors who are not usually up towards the front end to do something spectacular. Now, Yaroslav Zalaho has set the first major competitive lap at 2:01.89 from the Ukrainian. So that's a good starting point. Let's see who is going to get up there with him. Don't forget, of course, that this is the weekend where Tukka Tarpanen, the Tiger, as he is known back in Finland, can seal the championship. It's not over yet. There's 50 points between himself and Taylor Barnard. If Tarpanen beats Barnard in race one, then the championship is indeed clinched. But Taylor Barnard has a reputation of being very fast indeed in race one. And if he manages to beat him, then the championship rumbles on to Sunday. And of course, just for the purity of having a race championship decided on the final day of the season, I think there's many of us that would quite like to see it go the distance. So fastest in sector one is currently Brunadel Pino. He's done a 38.3 on his second flying lap. So that's good. That's worth keeping an eye on. Wang Shongwei, for the argument's sake, is currently fastest in sector two, but that tells me we're not quite up to full speed yet, because he's not really been towards the sharp end of the field in 2024. The sports car driver, who has become very much embedded in the R&B racing discipline. He's here because he loves racing cars. He knows he's not really going to be a champion in Formula Regional Middle East, but he still has the spirit of the competition. So still they continue on and doing a fantastic battle. Now, an interesting conversation came up as Wang Zhongwei bangs in a 158.4. Some people have said, why are some of the drivers in the timing screen to your left in lowercase and everybody else is in capitals? Well, that's actually due to the way that Asians write their name, because Wang Shongwei, Wang is of course the family name, and in the same way as Gao Yujia, Gao is the family name and Yujia is the first name. So because they write it the other way round in Asia, particularly in the Chinese territories, then actually the lowercase is determining the forename, the Christian name of the driver, rather than the surname. So that answers and clears that one up. I've noticed that question come up a few times in the stream, but it's actually because those particular drivers, they write their name the other way round, in very much the same way that you see Zhou Guanyu in the world of Formula One. He, of course, raced in this championship in its guise as Formula 3 Asia back in the day and became champion a couple of years ago on his route to Formula One. So obviously this can lead to very big things in the future. 6 minutes left on the blocks, and now we're starting to see some competitive times. Brunadel Pino's banged in a 155.6. Garfias nowhere near as quick. 156.9 from him. Fastest in first sector, Tukka Tarpanen. Fastest in sector two, Tukka Tarpanen. He really is flying. And this could be a first pole position of the weekend, which will definitely set him in good stead. What's Taylor Barnard doing by comparison in terms of lap times? Well, he hasn't gone for the fast lap yet. So there's still an opportunity for him. Taparis goes second on a 156.1. What about Tukka Tarpanen? He'll complete the flying lap this time by as he comes through. And is he going to be pole position? Of course it is. Provisional, of course, 155.07. Fastest in all three sectors. But is anybody going to get near to that sort of pace? If Taylor Barnard can't beat him, then Tukka Tarpanen has just gotten one step closer to becoming champion. He's already sewn up the rookie championship, and Race GP only need to score 1 point from race one to win the team's championship. because they currently have a lead of 128 points with 129 available. So they only need one more point, Race GP, to become teams champions, and I don't think anybody expected that after the dominant display of the Mumbai Falcons in 2023. So there is Zachary David, who's gone third quickest, just off the pace of Bruno Del Pino. Great work from Bruno Del Pino so far of MP Motorsport. Taylor Barnard, fastest of all in Sector 2. Right, we've got a fight on our hands for pole. Teofil Nas second now on a 155.5. But Taylor Barnard is going for pole position. Can he beat Tuukka Tarpanen? He has gone quicker in Sector 2. And he's done about the same sort of first sector as Tarpanen did previously. Is it going to be enough? No. Second place from Taylor Barnard. 155.388. So Taylor Barnard, who is usually the qualifying king in session 1, has not been able to get to the same pace as Tarpanen on his first flying lap. He's got to hope that he's got another lap in it, but he runs wide at turn 1. So Tuukka Tarpanen may be about to snatch it in the first race after all. Brando Badou has gone brilliantly in the first session. Third position so far, just in front of Ugo Chukwu. Then Teofil Nas, Rafael Kamara, Bruno Del Pino, Zachary David, James Wharton and Tazanabol Fivazak. Welcome back to the sharp end, Emerson Fittipaldi Jr. That's more like it. He's had 4 miserable weekends, and now finally Emerson Fittipaldi is where he deserves to be. They had all sorts of problems with brake issues in the opening weekends, then an engine misfire last time out at Yas Marina. He couldn't get anywhere near where he's supposed to be, and now finally in the top 10. That's more like it. And Brando Badou has gone second, quicker than Taylor Barnard. I think Barnard's actually had his lap time deleted. He has. So Barnard's lap time has been removed. So he clearly exceeded track limits, and that's disastrous for Taylor Barnard because it means that he's not going to get another chance of it, because the lap times are not going to be as good on the second run. So Taylor Barnard is going to have to hope that this second lap is relatively competitive, because it won't be anywhere near as quick as the previous lap. He's done a 38.3 in Sector 1. It's a 10th off Tuukka. He's done a 45.5 in Sector 2, so that's a couple of tenths away. So the championship is opening up for Tuukka Tarpanen as early as Q1. All he's got to do is beat Taylor Barnard in race 1 and he'll be champion. So it's going the way of Tarpanen at the moment. Taylor Barnard is going to finish the lap. Where is he going to end up? 12th place for the Englishman. There's a lot of long faces now at PHM AIX as Taylor Barnard backs out. But it's disaster. This is not what he needed at all. He wanted the championship to go the distance, and it's looking very tough for him to do so now. Taylor Barnard in car number 5. There he is, having just finished his second flying lap, but with the first one being deleted, that is backs to the wall time for Taylor Barnard. Having said that, last year he had a fantastic run where he went from the back of the grid to the podium. So it's not done yet. It's definitely not done yet. There are still 75 points available and 50 points between Tarpanen and Barnard, but with Barnard starting outside the top 10 and Tuukka Tarpanen going for pole in Q1, that is looking so difficult for the British driver, who's just been named as a Formula 2 racer, of course, for the 2024 campaign. Racing as he is for PHM AIX's teammate to Joshua Dirksen, the Paraguayan driver. But Tuukka Tarpanen is in absolute electricity mode. And it's worth pointing out, at this stage of the championship, before we've even done the last 3 races of the year, Tuukka Tarpanen has scored 195 points in the championship, which is 3 more than Andrea Kimi Antonelli scored in 5 weekends last year. Everybody's been banging on about Andrea Kimi Antonelli and how sensational he's been over the last couple of years. Well, Tuukka Tarpanen has scored more points than him in 4 weekends than Kimi did in 5 in 2024. So fascinating from the Finn. And if Andrea Kimi Antonelli is being talked about as a racing prodigy, well, I think you can now categorize Tuukka Tarpanen as the next one. 30 seconds left of the session for argument's sake, but realistically, you're not going to see any major improvements now because of the way the tyre deck has gone. So Tuukka Tarpanen is going to be in pole position for Q1 ahead of Brando Badou and then Ugo Chukwu. Is that Taylor Barnard going for one final push? Why not? You may as well. You've got nothing to lose. Starting 12th is not where he wants to be, so he may as well see if he's got clear track in front of him to go for another lap. You never know. If anybody is going to squeak something else out of this car, it's going to be Taylor Barnard. So he has got one more lap on the board, and he's going to take it right to the ragged edge. This is Taylor Barnard. He doesn't do things by halves. So if he can find a little bit more speed in the car, then why not? He's got to try and keep this championship alive a little bit longer. But Brandon Badua has come into the pits. He'll be on the front row of the grid if it stays like this. Ugo Wigachukwu looking for third. Zachary David in fourth. Teofil Nal in fifth position. Then Rafael Kamara in sixth. From Bruno Del Pino, James Wharton, Taz in the Vivazak, Emerson Fittipaldi Jr., Mari Boyer and Taylor Barnard at the moment in 12th. Then Costa Tabares, Jesse Cadasquedo, Canato Leonardo Peugeot. We're going to see a replay of something happening to one of the pinnacles. Is that Mari Boyer? Oh, it is. And he goes airborne at turn 1. Now, if we keep this shot going, you'll see the extended runoff area on the exit of turn 2. I don't think we will. Indeed, we don't. Checkered flag is out. 13th provisionally is Costa Tabares in front of Jesse Cadasquedo, Canato Lee, Alzo Peugeot, Alex Abkasava, Luruki, Nikhil Bora down in 19th, and Jose Garfias in 20th ahead of John Bennett, Noah Lyle. Then Gao Yujia, Giovanni Mascio, Wang Chong Wei. And they're all ahead of Edgar Pierre, Finley Green, Yaroslav Azalaho and Isaac Barashi. So big improvements from R&B Racing, who are not down at the back this time. They're towards the back, but they're not dead last by any means. Now, Taylor Barnard has done a 38.3 in Sector 1 and a 45.6 in Sector 2. So the second sector's a bit weak, but the first sector is very fast. So can Taylor Barnard move himself up from 12th position? He needs a perfect third sector. Is it worth going for, though, after the second sector? So let's find out if it's going to be enough. Wigachukwu comes in. I think Barnard is going to cross the line. He does, but he does not improve from 12th position. So very unfortunate indeed for the PHM-AIX driver, who is trying desperately to keep this championship fight alive. But that's a big hammer blow at this stage of the championship. And everybody in the United Kingdom who is a Taylor Barnard fan, their heart just plunged to their boots. But for everybody in Scandinavia, things just got interesting. So Tukka Tarpanen, pole position by, get this, 0.415. That is crazy speed from the Finn. Absolutely astonishing. He is ready to be champion. He is ready to walk away from here with the trophy. And he's ready to go to Europe saying, Andrea Kimi who? It's me. I'm the big news story. This is going to be a fascinating 2024 season from the young Finn. It's going to be really entertaining. Everybody now getting ready to put the new tyres on. But you can see for yourself that there's not a lot you can really do with these tyres once they start dropping. Now, interesting, 2 drivers are reported to the stewards for an unsafe release, and one of them is Brando Badua, who lines up second on the grid for race 1 if he doesn't get a penalty. If he does, then that's really disastrous. The other one, by the way, is Finley Green, but there is the Tiger. Tukka Tarpanen, pole position by 0.4 of a second. Absolutely crazy to be that far ahead of everybody else in this day and age. But he was always a very strong talent, even in his karting days. When he first emerged in Europe back in 2019 at Angeville, he showed up to the circuit with Kotala Sports that had guided him through his young days, put him into OK Junior, and up against all the might of CRG and Sodi and Tony Kart and Birala. He came to Angeville, was unbelievably quick, drove away in the final, and everybody was just baffled. Who is this Tukka Tarpanen kid? But everybody knows him now. A year later, he joined the Tony Kart factory team and became the junior world champion. And he's certainly one of the most exciting talents to come out of Scandinavia since Kimi Räikkönen, I would say. And he did pretty well. Are we on the verge of potentially one day in the next 10 years or so seeing the 5th Formula One world champion from Finland after the likes of Keke Rosberg, Mika Häkkinen, and Kimi Räikkönen? Actually, he would be the 4th world champion from Finland. My apologies, not the 5th. But still, very impressive to see that that could go his way. And still, Very exciting to see what will happen going into race 3 now as well. The championship could well be over by that point, the way things are currently going in the first 2 races. But that doesn't mean there won't be anything to fight for in race 3, because there's still big battles in the team standings, and there's the best of the rest to consider as well, don't forget, because the fight for 3rd position in the championship standings is very close at the moment between Rafael Camara of Brazil, Mari Boya of Spain, and James Wharton of Australia. There is Ugo Ugachukwu, who's had a very difficult campaign in Formula Regional, but he has been able to show some flair, and like his teammates in Mumbai Falcons, he has been on the podium this year. It's nice to know that all 4 drivers in the Mumbai Falcons team this year have managed to get a best result of at least 2nd, because there have been 2nd places for James Wharton and Ugo Ugachukwu, and there have been wins for Rafael Camara and Arvid Lindblad, who is not competing this weekend because he's back in Europe preparing for the FIA Formula 3 Championship. So it'll be fascinating to see how he goes. There is Brando Badua, 2nd position, but under investigation for an unsafe release. So that will be a real headache if his best time is deleted. But it could benefit his teammate Taylor Barnard, who would move up a position in the rankings. But Brando Badua, who is, of course, as many of the hardcore motor racing fans will have guessed, the son of Luca Badua, who was a racing driver in Formula 1 for Minardi and for Ferrari, as well as for the 40 team back in the day. He is here. He is very passionate about his son doing well, and after he scored a pair of podium finishes last time in Dubai, that just shows you it's no fluke. He clearly loves this particular circuit. But we now go into qualifying 2 with a completely blank sheet of paper. It's going to be very interesting. The green light has gone already for qualifying, and the teams are already doing their job to send them out a little bit after the fact. I think they've waited about 1.5 minutes or so. According to my timing screen, the time has already been ticking down for a couple of minutes, and nobody's sent them out. So, fascinating situation for all of the contenders. I love it when I start bringing up random facts and people's opinions start coming in. Love that. Valtteri Bottas, a champion in a parallel universe where Hamilton was never born. You could say that about half the Formula 1 grid nowadays, couldn't you? And he did win 7 titles after all. And Dynamo Production saying Luca Badua deserved points. He certainly did. I always felt he was one of the most underrated Formula 1 drivers of the 90s. His qualifying pace for Minardi in the first part of that season was extraordinary. I never quite understood why one of the bigger teams like Jordan or Sauber or Ligier at the time didn't take him on. He was a fantastic talent. And that's not even when you consider the European Grand Prix of 1999, when he should have finished 4th place, but for a gearbox problem. We could be here for hours and hours and hours talking about these things. Maybe we'll do that at some point. We'll wax lyrical about insane motor racing facts from the past. Come and join me. You're more than welcome to. But here we are for Formula Regional Middle East qualifying, of course, for race 3. So it'll be fascinating to see how it all continues on. Now, can Tuukka Tarponen make it 2 pole positions out of 2? That's a big question, because that would almost certainly make things nice and easy for him. There is James Wharton, the Australian. Did a fantastic job in race 3 of Yas Marina, starting to finally look like he could be a race winner in Formula Regional. Don't forget, this is his rookie campaign, so important for him to get it right. Out onto the circuit he goes, along with the pinnacles of Mari Boya, and I think that's Finley Green behind him. Very talented racing driver, Finley Green. 5 years out of the seat before this year, and yet he's been able to match similar to the pace of the competitors around him. And that's including the fact that he had his season interrupted by a massive onset of appendicitis on the Friday morning before Dubai. Had to be rushed to hospital, apparently was 10 hours away from critical. So amazing to think that he's here doing it. You'll actually see a fantastic interview we did with him yesterday on tomorrow's live stream. I thought it was such a good story, such a fascinating and inspirational moment in the early 2024 campaign that we had to hear more about it. I may already be referring to him as the Rocky Balboa of the 2024 motor racing season. Doesn't matter what you throw at him, he keeps coming back. Now, Jorisin asks, who will most likely be in Formula 1 in a couple of years? From this particular grid, there's a handful of them that have a really good chance of making it happen in Formula Regional Middle East. None the least, of course, is the man who is set to be champion, Tuukka Tarponen, and I would also say the man who is set to be second in the championship, Taylor Barnard. He may not have the budget of other drivers, but in terms of the raw talent and ability, Nico Rosberg certainly thought he was an incredible kart racer back in the day. He supported him in the latter part of the 2010s, when he was racing in the World Championships. So he clearly felt that he was something special, and now PHM AAX think exactly the same thing, and I have to say I agree with all of them. You've also got to look at the potential of Rafael Camara to be the next Brazilian in Formula One, to emulate the likes of Felipe Massa. I would even say there's a couple of drivers from further afield that have a shot. For Spain, Mari Boya is definitely F1 talent worthy. Whether or not he'll be able to get all the way there is another story. And I would actually say another one worth keeping an eye on over the next couple of seasons is the American Ugo Chukwu, who is currently in the McLaren Young Driver program. He's very tall, but if he can be accommodated, he's definitely a talent worth watching out for. And considering how in vogue Formula One in America currently is, he's a perfect candidate to lead that charge forward in years to come. So everybody just trying to get themselves into a good position now on the flying lap. And everybody caught out by the start of qualifying as well. I think it was because it was a late return to the pits for Taylor Barnard that everybody thought, well, everyone's now in, but Taylor Barnard was the last flying lap out on the course. So by staying out, I think he caught a lot of people out. Careful, guys. Weaving wheel to wheel. You don't want to bang wheels on the run to qualifying. There's a couple of drivers are just trying to sort themselves out. We haven't gone for the flying lap yet. But goodness me, we very nearly had a couple of drivers having contact before we've even gone into qualifying. I've seen drivers back each other up before, but that was very nearly weaving into each other on the home straight. That woke a couple of drivers up. So now we get ourselves ready for number 3. Race number 3, that is. Qualifying 2 is what ends up having race 3 as a starting grid. So let's see who is going to have the fast lap time this time. Everybody's still getting up to speed at the moment. But based on what we saw in Q1, Tuka Tarpanen having the pace by 0.4 of a second is pretty massive, as Taylor Barnard just had Jessica Riscado around the outside of him. Not for position, of course, we're still in qualifying, but it's all about the psychology at this moment in time. Fastest of all in Sector 1, for argument's sake, on this particular lap around the course, is Emerson Fittipaldi Jr. And it's great to see him towards the sharp end again. I was talking to Emerson Sr. during the Yas Marina weekend, and as happy and cheerful and delightful as he always is as a character, and he's one of my favourites in motor racing history. I've never seen him look so long-faced. They couldn't quite figure out what was happening with the car during Yas Marina, but for qualifying he had a massive engine misfire, and it basically caused no throttle, no delivery in the straight line, which meant that Emerson Fittipaldi Jr. was at the back. But fortunately this time here in Dubai they've got it right, and he's up there in the top 10 where he deserves to be, and should really have been all the way through the season for my money. Right, Taylor Barnard needs track position here, but this is fascinating. Tuka Tarpanen's backing them up. That is Tuka Tarpanen backing up the likes of Taylor Barnard, trying to get track position. His teammates are clearly assisting him. The mind games have started. We haven't even gone racing yet, and the mind games have already started in Formula Regional Middle East. So Taylor Barnard backs himself up into clear space. This bit of the session always fascinates me, as everybody is just looking for that competitive edge. So let's see how things all progress as they work their way forward. Gao Yujia has set the first competitive lap time, a 1:56.9 from the Chinese driver for R&B. Edgar Pierre doing a 1:57.6. And now we're going to start to see some fast laps. Fastest of all in Sector 1 currently is Rafael Camara. So the Brazilian driver who did a great job last time out when we raced here in Dubai 2 weeks ago, and last weekend at Yas Marina as well. So this man is currently on the top spot. Good to keep an eye on him. Gao Yujia, one of the Chinese drivers for R&B Racing. They had a wonderful week last week for Chinese New Year. They actually invited us all along with Top Speed to the Chinese New Year party that we had on Friday night. It was nice to be part of that. I'd never been to a Chinese New Year festivity before, so it was nice to eat proper food. And at 8 p.m. local time, we saw in the Chinese New Year. It was lovely to be part of that. Now, we're going to get to see some very serious performances. Really excited to see how it all continues to progress. Gao Yujia currently battling away with the number 66 of Liu Qi. But Bruna Del Pino's gone top for the moment. 1:54.996, quicker than Teofil Nal, quicker than Ugo Chukwu. And there is the man who's now currently on the top spot, the number 6, Bruna Del Pino. Can he be beaten? Well, Rafael Kamara can't beat him. He's done a 1:55.1. So Del Pino has really found some speed. He could end up on the front row here. This is great work from the young Spaniard for MP Motorsport. So it's worth keeping an eye on him as still the battles progress. But we need to see a little bit more. Tuukka Tarppanen, 1:54.7. Not as fast as he was overall compared to everybody else, but certainly pole position for now. Taylor Barnard goes third on a 1:55.0. So Tarppanen goes top, Barnard goes third. Zachary David is now fourth in front of Nal and Inthra Fuvazak. We've got Chukwu seventh from Wharton. Tapar is doing well, and Marley Boyer P10. Then Kanato Lee, another big name from the rookies. And then John Bennett in P12. But there are still a few drivers who haven't set their flying lap there. Brando Badua has gone fastest of all in Sector 1. And he's comparable to Tarppanen in Sector 2. Could Badua steal the pole? It's going to be very tight indeed for the Italian. But as he comes through, it could be very fast indeed for Brando Badua. Second by 1/10 of a second. So Badua is just 1/10 of a second off Tarppanen, much quicker than in the first session. What's happened elsewhere? Oh, big spin in the background. So that is one of the Santalocks going around. Tough to tell who that is until we zoom in on it. So it's one of the Santalocks that's really got it wrong. So very unfortunate indeed. And that's very much a game over for one of the Santalocks in terms of qualifying prowess. Teofil Nal has gone quicker than Taylor Barnard on his second flying lap, a 1:55.0. So that proves that you can go quicker on a second lap. But is it going to be possible? Certainly for Taylor Barnard and Tuukka Tarppanen, they've bailed out on these flying laps. Maybe they think there's one more left in the car. They didn't want to do two back-to-back flyers. Both of them backed off on that one. The spin came from Enzo Peugeot. So Enzo Peugeot was the one who spun it for Santalock. But there's Brando Badua, second again. Very fast time from him, a 1:54.832. Nice to see him finally showing his ability. In karting, he was always near, but not quite able to really nail it. And even in F4, Brando Badua really struggled. I always felt that there was something left in the tank for Brando Badua, and he's been able to prove it here in Formula Regional. The car seems to suit his driving style, which always helps. So he's going to take the fight to Tuukka Tarppanen in race 1 and race 3 if it stays like this. So it could be fascinating. There is Tuukka Tarppanen. Pole position again though, a 1:54.723. You don't get bonus points for pole position in Formula Regional Middle East, but it sets him up for a perfect start in both races. 3 wins already this season. And if he can add a 4th in race 1, he will be the champion. And to his credit, Tuukka Tarppanen has won on just the Yas Marina circuit so far. So if he wins in either of the races where he starts from pole position, he will have won on both circuits. So a fascinating situation for the competitors out there. And you're probably wondering, well, if they only have 2 race circuits where they compete, how are they eligible for super license points in this particular championship? Because you have to run on 3 different layouts in order to be eligible. Well, the good news for them is that at Yas Marina, in the opening race weekend, we used the corkscrew layout of the circuit. So that tallies, and it means that they are eligible for super license points. Last year, we didn't have that problem because we ran at Q8 Motortown as well. But that wasn't possible for the 2024 championship. So there is the 26th. That's Isaac Barashi, still learning about the world of Formula Regional, and definitely doing it the hard way by joining mid-season. But with less than a minute to go in this particular qualifying session, it looks very good indeed for Tuukka Tarppanen. Pole position for both races likely. And it certainly looks as though it's going to continue in phenomenal fashion. Jack Monaghan says to Tuukka Tarppanen, keep eating those Frosties, the Tiger's got pace. Maybe you have to be of a certain age or from a certain nation to get that one. But certainly Bruna Del Pino's been strong. 3rd position on the grid for him. clearly he feels very unjust about losing his victory while leading in race 2 last week at Yas Marina. So he wants to prove to the world, I can finish on the podium, I can be a race winner, I'm going for it. And fair play to him. Great to see MP Motorsport back at the front, not by a reverse grid, but by pure speed. And where's the other car for Nikhil Bora? Well, that's 15th. Emerson Fittipaldi is 18th this time. And Isaac Barashi is down in 28th, so big pressure on them. Checkered flag is out. Tuukka Tarpanen looks unbeatable. But Taylor Barnard has found an improvement on the last lap, a 1:55.05. It improves his lap, but it doesn't improve his position. He stays P5. So at least he's got a better starting position for race 3 than race 1. But by then, of course, the championship could already be over. But for Taylor Barnard's point of view, he said to me pre-season, if I finish first or second in the championship, I'll have enough super license points to race, not test, race in Formula 1. So that's my target. And they have done an absolutely terrific job. Those two drivers, Tuukka Tarpanen and Taylor Barnard, fighting in fantastic situation. Really exciting. So let's see how it's going to continue over the course of the race weekend, but certainly for now, Tarpanen has done the double in the same way that Kia Nakamura-Berta did in F4 UAE earlier this morning. Tuukka Tarpanen has now been able to come through and get 2 pole positions back-to-back for race 1 and race 3. The race 2 grid, of course, is determined by a reverse grid scenario. But certainly for Tuukka Tarpanen, he takes 1 step closer to the title. His main rival, Taylor Barnard, will start race 1 from outside the top 10. Tuukka Tarpanen will be on pole position for both race 1 and race 3. In just a few hours' time, the Formula Regional Middle East Championship could be decided with the Finn, Tuukka Tarpanen, starting from the front. From Jake Sanson, we will be back when we go racing later this afternoon for F4 UAE Race 1 and Formula Regional Middle East Race 1. Will the championship still continue into Sunday? You'll have to tune in later to find out.